So I want to just wrap things up. Thank you. I know it's running a little bit on the long side, but I really wanted to share all this with you. Is there any questions I can answer for anybody right now? Yes. Next gig. That's a tricky one. We actually do a lot of corporate shows, so we don't have a lot of public events. We're kind of working on a system where we might be able to live stream our performances to the public, possibly. I haven't committed to that yet, but I'm thinking about it. If we do have public gigs, they'll usually be listed on the website. So go ahead.
How was your business during COVID?
During that time, there was a lot of people pivoting to training, to online streaming, to learning more songs. Obviously, that was a difficult time for many musicians. But I also will say that there's a lot of resourceful musicians who pivoted and actually created more income for themselves than they would have normally. And so, as interesting as that experience was, it was a good excuse for people to not try, including myself. And so at that time, I was busy training my friend Barry, who's the first apprentice with 176 Keys. And we were training virtually, we were practicing virtually, and it was a good time for me to just to discuss what it was I wanted as a performer and as an entertainer. I was doing a lot of shows and I was getting tired, and it provided a reprieve for me to just kind of sit back and go, am I doing what I really want to do, or am I just doing what I'm being told? So, great question. So, any other questions? Yes.
You listed some equipment possibilities. You're always looking at a keyboard that has the built-in sounds versus a controller to a DAW or
Yeah. Sorry, what's your name, sir? So George is asking a question. When you're choosing a keyboard, didn't talk about this, but I like to have a keyboard that does a little bit of everything. I like Yamaha keyboards because Yamaha makes pianos. So when I'm playing piano, it sounds good to me. It's very responsive. It sounds pure. This keyboard's light. When you're doing a lot of gigs, you want the equipment to not be heavy. So this keyboard's like maybe 33 pounds. And as I've demonstrated, the drum sounds are great. Or if you want to do like a hip hop thing, you can also do. So there's lots of different ways you can express yourself. If you're just starting and you want to get good at the piano, it's good to just stay focused on the piano and not all the other bells and whistles. I've been teaching Alora. I have a saying with Alora. It's all I care is kicks and snares. I'm just going to plug in my other thing here again. Sorry. The reason for that is I don't want her being overwhelmed with playing all the different hi-hat parts and stuff that I expect people to play. So when I'm doing, she's just doing like one thing with one finger, so it's very rudimentary, but it serves the purpose. I'd rather you play basic and not make mistakes than try to be too fancy and be distracting. So all I care is kicks and snares. That's her rule for right now. But if you're choosing a keyboard, I like, what's the piano sound like, first of all? It's got to be a good piano sound. That's why I mentioned the Casio. All pianos are pretty good these days. I just like Yamaha. I have a Yamaha grand piano at home, and so that's why I like Yamaha keyboards on the stage. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so you went into sounds.
Yeah, I like the Yamaha piano, but I also like the fact that the drum kit is powerful. The bass sounds like, I like all the sounds in this keyboard, and they're great. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So in your video there with Laura, was that's a Behringer that you were using to control your lights?
Yeah, so great. George noticed that he picked up on how I was controlling my light show. So that's a whole other workshop. But I have what's called a Behringer FCB 1010 foot controller, and it's a bit technical, but I'm basically sending MIDI information from the foot controller into my iPad, which has light controller software, which is talking to a Bluetooth to DMX controller, which is telling my lights what to do. So I'm very techy. All this tech, even this streaming thing here, it's the first time I've done this. I'm pretty happy with how it's working. But when you're controlling your lights, I like a foot controller because I get to decide what happens when. If I feel like triggering a blue scene, I can do that whenever I feel like it. If I feel like triggering a disco scene where it's a party, I get to do that. If I want to trigger my fog machine at a certain point in time, I can do that. So the foot controller that I have on the stage that he noticed, I'm using to control my light show. It's funny. It looked like it was, which is actually a good idea. I should figure that out. But I have a little wireless remote control where there's 4 buttons, and it's an LED fog machine. So if you hit this button, it's red smoke. Yeah. So I have a little button on my keyboard. It did, yes, yeah. So I just when we were doing the crescendo to the breakdown, I just triggered the smoke as a visual, like, hey, this is the crescendo. I'm going to make this special, this moment right here, where we do the acapella and the shots, you know, like that sort of thing. So, yeah, lighting control is a whole other workshop, but great question.
Because again, your packages always had a light bar in them.
Yeah.
Just suggestions.
You can. I mean, you can be lazy with your lights. You can set it and forget it, or you can use a foot controller that Yorkville has with the lights. There's a foot controller you can use. You can actually use an app on your phone to control the Yorkville lights through Bluetooth, or you could have a sound and light person do that for you. They could run your sound and lights remotely without you having to do it. I like to do it myself because it reduces your expenses and it makes your profit margins go up. The less, it's great to have help, but the less help you hire, the more money you make, but the trade-off is you spend more time and stress too. So like, I would rather have my daughter here running all this multimedia nonsense than me trying to do everything all at the same time. But it's working well, so. But great question. Lighting is part of what I will teach you, but that's a whole other workshop. Any other questions before we say farewell here? Yes. This is the 945 I'm using here, and this came at the recommendation of some of the folks here. I have a 940. Thank you. I have a 945 and I have a 935 that Alora uses, and this is being plugged right into my looper pedal. So. Actually, I'll do a little vocal demo for you here, just a vocal looping thing. Fine. Oops. It's important to kill the previous loop you had before you try and do something new. All right. Find me somebody to love. 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 To love, find me somebody to love. 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 Can anybody find me somebody to love? My name's Craig. Thanks so much for coming to my workshop. Give a hand to the Lon McQuaid folks for hosting this. Love you guys. God bless you. We'll see you next time.